Now we have the second semi-final of the lightweight women's single sculls. In lane 1, Cuba, lane 2, Sweden, lane 3, Ireland, lane 4, the United States of America, lane 5, Italy, and lane 6, Mexico.
And I don't know why Lisette Hernandez, the 24-year-old Cuban, has got did not start there, but lane 1 will be Emma Fred, the 27-year-old Swedish sculler, European champion. Denise Walsh from Skibbereen, she's in lane 3, 24 years of age, same club as Paul and Gary O'Donovan. Mary Jones, the 31-year-old American sculler from Huntsville, Alabama. Sculls out of Cambridge Boat Club, Charles these days. And in lane 6, Kenya Lachega Alanis famously beat Kim Brennan in the heat of the Olympics, that very rough condition race in Rio.
And we're away now, and look at the start there from the Mexican sculler over on the closest side to us. Wow, she's got almost a length lead, about 15 strokes in. That's incredible. That's
an incredible start. You can see why it was. She was ready for Rio and ready to scull in the nice water off the start and get that lead on Kimberly Brennan that Kimberly couldn't come back from on that day.
I have to say, though, she was out to lunch in the heats because she finished 4th and she's had to come through the repechage. So Kenya, the 23-year-old Kenya, she's had 2 races, just as a third, and competitors to her right in the centre lanes, Clara Guerrera most notably, will have only had 1 race to get this far, so maybe that's not such a great tactic. I don't know. Let's see how the race progresses.
She looks incredibly aggressive here. Look at the body swing and that real crank on the handles into the back end of the stroke. I don't know how efficient that will be coming down the track later on, but we can see the Italian on screen here.
Clara Guerrera, Sarah, I saw her win the World Junior title in Amsterdam in 2016, and she was so impressive, and she was such a small sculler against bigger women, and she took 2nd behind Marika Kaiser in the under-23 lightweight women's single this year. She's such a talent, and I think the Italian team is so lucky to have her in their team here.
And it's a great race with the 4 scullers in a line. And then we've got the Mexican sculler who popped out of the picture. But let's remember, she took all of this lead in the first 10 strokes. Fantastic ability to have that much speed off the start. But now the rest of the field is just starting to edge their way back.
Yeah, she's really starting to suffer now a little more. She doesn't have quite that power that we saw in the first sort of, I don't know, 30 strokes of the race. But the American looking very smooth in the middle of the course there. Lane 4, Mary Jones. She's in pretty good shape with the Irish sculler Denise Walsh off to her right-hand side, and they're really eating to this lead now of the Mexican sculler. She's getting pulled back into the rest of the field, and I think probably too early on in the race.
The American sculler coached, of course, by Carlos Dinares, and he spends most of his time coaching in America now. And he really is a great thinker about rowing and sculling and how they move. And here's his sculler there. You see Mary John. She's had a great season. She came over in Europe, not all the American team did. Had a 5th place in Poznan, 4th in Lucerne, just missed a medal. But she does look very smooth, just easy, fluid movements, nothing dramatic there.
Yeah, it was a lovely shot, wasn't it, of Mary Jones' face there. She just wants to keep her head still and just let her eyes just cast from one side to the other and just check her position. And the position is just easing back into the middle of the field as we see the Mexican sculler in front of us now just drifting back into the pack.
We can see the Irish sculler in the lead now in lane 3. That's Denise Walsh. So we see her on screen.
And I think she's making a move here. She's deliberately just picked up her pace here, and it just looks a little bit more aggressive the way the blades are going into the water. Not necessarily efficient, but just for 10 strokes to pick it up and make this move.
But a really great shot here from the side. I really like how flat Mary is with what she's doing, and by that I mean through the stroke there's nothing that moves up and down, whereas as compared to the sculler from Skibbereen, Denise Walsh in lane 3, she's a little bit more aggressive. You see that rise of her head and body through the stroke.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is a new trend in rowing, but we're seeing, you know, the O'Donovan brothers famously said, you know, we pull like dogs to win that silver medal in the Rio. They weren't the prettiest of scullers in terms of their technique. But I think that aggressivity is a thing that Dominic Katie has going at Skibbereen, and, you know, maybe that's what we're seeing here with the 24-year-old Denise Walsh.
We can see Denise Walsh has taken the lead there coming through the 1,000. And what we're talking about is just how much that boat might bounce up and down in the water. And every time the boat bounces or it tips, so the stern digs in, then you're showing more of the bottom of the boat to the water, and that creates more resistance and slows the boat down, as opposed to the smoothness that we can see here as we're looking at Emma Fred from Sweden, just trying to keep the boat smoothly moving along without those big jumps and big changes up and down. Yeah,
she took that European title back in Richice, I think it was in May. Not medalled since then, either in Poznan or Lucerne, but certainly the experience of the 27-year-old is going to be vitally important in this third quarter of the race. I really like what Mary Jones is doing, you know, nothing fussy. The American sculler has really moved just gently through. You can see a shot of her stern of a boat there. Sarah, it's running so flat, you were talking about that. There's hardly any noticeable dip as the blades go in, and technically that's exactly what your coach wants to see.
And it's going to be a really interesting race here, I think, for the third position. We can see now the Swedish sculler, Emma Fred, she's starting to move up on Mary Jones, get herself into a qualifying position, obviously through to the A final. That's what they're here to do, one race at a time. The important thing is to make it through to that all-important A final to have a shot at the medals. But we know that the Italian sculler, Clara Guerra, is not out of it yet either. And the Mexican sculler, although she put a lot out there early on in the race, she's also still not too far off the pace. So there's going to be everything to play for as they come down to the final quarter of this race.
Well, there are two races going on here, as you say. We've got these three leaders. They'll be wanting to battle it out between the three of them. But actually, they'll be happy that they're moving on Clara Guerra in the Italian sculler, that we're going to see it now. This gap has opened up, I think, as we come here with 500 meters to go. These three are getting themselves away, and now they've got some clear water ahead of these last two scullers. Sad to see the Italian has dropped away here, Martin. You thought perhaps she would do better.
Yeah, well, you know, I think your path from junior world champion as a single sculler in any discipline, men, women, heavy or lightweight, is not a straightforward one. And I guess, you know, Clara's finding that today. But she has a great future in the sport, just 18 years of age. As we go back up to the head of the field, so closest to you is the American sculler from Huntsville, Alabama, Mary Jones. There she is. She's in second place. That's qualifying for the final. And race leader to her right. Well, the race is all to Mary Jones's right, so she's only got one way to look.
What I found really
the Irish Denise Walsh. Sorry, Sarah, off you go.
No, what I found really interesting in some of these races that we've seen this morning is, despite the fact that you've got three boats that are very clearly in the lead and going to qualify, that they're still going for it. They're still fighting for those lanes and those positions in these semi-finals. Do you think that there's something to be gained over your opposition psychologically, perhaps?
Well, centre lane is great, but I think this, you know, you get a centre lane if you win, and that means it's maybe easier to see the opposition. But I think the aggressivity there and looks, I mean, Denise Walsh has just taken it on, isn't she, Greg?
Denise Walsh has really taken it on now, as we're feeling the pain here, having a look at Mary Jones, having to make this decision. How hard are you going to go to try and get this first or second position? And all of them want to win this race. Today is not so important, to be honest.
They are miles ahead of the fourth place sculler, so these three are definitely through, but Denise Walsh is not going to give up that first place in this semi-final easily.
Well, it's Emma Fred as well putting the pressure on from third place, that she's coming up looking to get the second place, causing Denise Walsh to keep going all the way till the line. And it's going to be very close for who's second. It's going to be Denise Walsh, who does cross the line first. And as it was, the American sculler Mary Jones did just hang on to the second place that we saw ahead of Emma Fred from Sweden.
There's a lot of Irish support here in the crowd. I mean, you know, a lot of Irish people in America have come down from this. We saw some from Boston, I guess, you know, big Irish community there in the States. So she's got a lot of home support, as did Mary Jones, the American sculler.
I guess what's interesting is we've noticed these guys are racing in all the races to try to get the best possible position for the final. Sometimes if you're on a lake where the conditions might be unfair, that's incredibly important, because World Rowing end up reseeding the lanes to put you in a favoured lane. Here, I don't think there's any favoured lanes. This is the fairest course I think I've ever seen, with just fantastic conditions. So it really doesn't make that much difference. But as it was a psychological thing, and we got the winner there, Denise Walsh, ahead of Mary Jones and Emma Fred.